This happened to me about a year ago when I was living alone in a small apartment complex just outside Tucson, Arizona.
Any noise? Maybe from that
It
car
wasn't a
over there?
bad neighborhood or anything
No,
like
nothing
that.
at all.
Mostly quiet, a few families, some college students, and a couple of older people who had been living there for years. Nothing unusual ever really happened there, at least not until that night. I had to wake up early the next morning for work, so I went to bed around 11 p.m. like usual. My apartment was on the first floor, which meant my bedroom window faced the small parking lot behind the building. Normally that didn't bother me, but that night, something woke me up suddenly. At first I thought it was just a dream. Then I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. It was soft, but very clear. My eyes opened slowly as I looked toward the window beside my bed. The room was almost completely dark except for a little moonlight coming through the blinds. For a few seconds, I just laid there, trying to convince myself I had imagined it. Then it happened again. 3 slow knocks. My heart immediately started beating faster. The knocking was coming from my bedroom window, and the worst part was the time. I reached over and grabbed my phone from the nightstand. The screen lit up. 3:07 a.m. No one should be knocking on someone's bedroom window at that time. I sat up slowly in bed, staring at the window. The blinds were closed, but they were thin enough that I could see a faint shadow outside. It looked like someone was standing very close to the glass. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just sat there, frozen, staring at the outline on the other side of the window. Then the knocking started again. Knock, 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 slow, deliberate. Like whoever was outside knew I was awake.
Hello?
A dozen different thoughts started
I
running
need
through
help.
my head.
Someone's in my apartment.
Maybe someone had the wrong apartment. Maybe someone needed help. Maybe it was just a drunk person messing
Yes.
around. But something about the way the knocking sounded didn't feel normal. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't random. It was calm, almost patient. After a few seconds,
I
a
know
voice
you're in
came
there.
from
Please,
outside the
just
window.
Open the door.
A man's
We need
voice,
to talk about this.
low
It's
and
important.
quiet. Hello?
I'm not leaving until we do.
My stomach tightened. The voice sounded way too close, like the person was standing right up against the glass. I stayed completely silent. A moment passed. Then the voice spoke again. Yeah, hey, I know you're awake. That sent a cold chill through my body, because I hadn't made a sound. I hadn't turned on any lights. There was no way someone outside should have known I was awake. I slowly slid out of bed and stepped away from the window, trying to stay quiet. My apartment suddenly felt way too small. The voice came again. Your car's lights are on. I stopped moving. My car was parked right outside that window, but I knew for a fact I hadn't left the lights on. Then the man knocked again. Knock, knock, knock. This time
Hello?
harder.
Yes, I need help.
Your car
Find out
battery's
what
gonna
your
die,
voice is.
he said.
I'm my apartment.
I walked
think someone's
slowly
trying to
toward my
break yours.
bedroom door and stepped into the
Okay, stay on
hallway.
line.
My heart was racing now. Something about the whole situation felt wrong. Why would someone be worried about my car battery at 3 a.m.? And why would they knock on my bedroom window instead of the front door? That's when the voice changed. The man outside suddenly sounded slightly annoyed. Come on, he said.
I know
you're in there. I
Please
grabbed
just
my
listen
phone
to
and
me.
quickly checked the screen.
This can't
No
go
missed
on.
calls, no notifications.
Open the one way.
I opened the camera app and quietly walked back toward the bedroom. My plan was simple. I was going to quickly pull the curtain open, take a picture, and see who was standing out there. I stepped closer to the window again. The shadow was still there, right outside the glass. I took a deep breath and pulled the curtain aside just enough to look. What I saw made my stomach drop, because the man standing outside my window wasn't looking at my car. He wasn't looking around the parking lot. He was staring directly into my bedroom, like he had been watching me the entire time, too. The moment I pulled the curtain slightly aside, the man outside noticed. His eyes locked directly onto mine through the glass. I froze. For a second, neither of
Please,
us
I know you're
moved.
in there. We
The
need to
man
talk.
looked like he was in his
I'm not
late
leaving
30s or
until you
early
listen.
40s. He had short
Please,
dark hair,
open the
a
door.
thin face, and was
This
wearing a
can't go
gray
on.
hoodie. Under the dim parking lot, light behind him, his expression was completely calm. Too calm. Then he slowly smiled. Not in a friendly way.
Open the door!
More like the kind of smile
said
someone
open
gives
it!
when they've been caught doing something.
Come
and they
on,
don't
open
really
up.
care. I immediately stepped back from the window and let the curtain fall back into place.
Open the door!
My heart was racing now.
I said open it!
There was no reason for this guy to be standing outside my
Come
bedroom
on, open
window
up!
at 3 in the morning. None. Then the knocking started again. This time louder. Knock. Worry. Knock. Knock. Hey, the man said. I saw you. His voice sounded amused now. Your car lights are still on. I stayed completely silent. There was no way I was responding to him. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then I heard something that made my stomach tighten. The sound of footsteps moving along the side of my apartment. The man wasn't standing at the window anymore. He was walking somewhere. I quickly moved toward the living room and peeked through the front blinds toward the parking lot. The man had walked away from my bedroom window, but he hadn't left. Instead, he was slowly walking toward the front of my apartment. My front door. A second later, the doorbell
I know you're
rang.
in there. I can see you.
The sudden sound made me
You
jump.
can't hide forever. Open the window.
I stood there, staring at the door.
I won't leave
Then
until
came
you do.
3 loud knocks. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah, hey, the man called from outside. I just want to help you with your car. My heart was pounding now. This guy clearly wasn't leaving, and the way he kept saying the same thing about my car lights made it feel like some kind of excuse, like he was trying to get me to open the door. Then the knocking stopped again.
The hell?
For a few seconds, everything
Who's
was
there?
completely quiet. I thought maybe he had finally given up. Then I heard something else. The faint sound of someone walking through the gravel outside my apartment again. But this time, it sounded like he was moving back toward the side of the building. Toward my bedroom window again. I slowly walked back toward the bedroom, trying to stay quiet. When I got close to the window, I could see the shadow again through the blinds. The man had returned. But this time he was standing even closer to the glass. Then his voice came again. Lower this time. Why are you hiding? My stomach dropped. He knocked again. Knock, knock, knock. Then he leaned closer to the window. I could hear his voice right through the glass. Open the window. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. For a moment there was silence again. Then the man suddenly did something that made the fear in my chest turn into full panic. He grabbed the bottom of the window frame and pulled on it. The window rattled loudly. He was trying to see if it was unlocked. I stepped back immediately. My hands were shaking now as I grabbed my phone and started dialing 911. But just before I pressed the call button, the man outside the window suddenly stopped. The rattling stopped. The knocking stopped. Everything went quiet. And then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Footsteps. But not walking away. Walking around the side of my apartment again, toward the front, toward the door. 3. Final. The footsteps outside moved slowly along the wall of my apartment. I stood there in the hallway, staring at my phone with 911 already typed in, my finger hovering over the call button. Then the footsteps stopped. Right outside my front door, for a few seconds there was complete silence. Then came 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Not loud like before, just slow, almost patient. Hey, the man said from the other side of the door. His voice sounded calm again. You dropped something outside. I didn't answer. My entire body felt tense. The way he kept changing his tone, from friendly to annoyed to calm again, made the situation feel even worse. Then he spoke again. You sure you don't want to come check your car? My heart was pounding now, because I knew for a fact my car lights weren't on. Yeah, and even if they were, no normal person would stand outside someone's bedroom window at 3 in the morning trying to help them. The door handle suddenly moved, just slightly, like he was testing it. My stomach dropped. Luckily, the door was locked. There was a pause. Then the handle moved again, this time harder. The man chuckled quietly from the other side. Guess you're smarter than most. That sentence made my skin crawl. I finally pressed call. The phone started dialing 911. The ringing sound filled the quiet apartment. Outside, everything suddenly went silent again. The man must have heard the phone, because a second later, I heard fast footsteps moving away from the door. I rushed to the living room window and carefully lifted the blinds just enough to look outside. The man was already walking quickly across the parking lot. But that's when I noticed something even more disturbing. He wasn't alone. There was another person sitting inside a dark car parked near the edge of the lot. The headlights were off, so I hadn't even noticed
Sir,
the
we need to
vehicle
ask you a
before.
few questions.
The
What is
man
this
got
about,
into the
officers?
passenger seat.
Routine check.
A
Where
second
were you
later, the
earlier
car
tonight?
started.
Inside.
Just as the
watching
911
TV.
operator answered
Anyone
on
with
my
you?
phone, the car slowly drove out of the parking lot and disappeared into the dark street. I explained everything to the operator. Within about 10 minutes, 2 police cars arrived at the apartment complex. They checked the parking lot, the street, and the area around my building. But the car was already gone. One of the officers asked me to describe the man. When I mentioned the gray hoodie and the dark car waiting in the lot, he exchanged a quick look with the other officer. Then he said something that made the entire situation even creepier. Apparently, earlier that same night, another person a few miles away had called the police about 2 men knocking on apartment windows late at night, trying to get people to open the door. The officer told me something else too. He said most of the people they targeted lived alone on the first floor. After that night, I moved to a different apartment on the 3rd floor. And ever since then, I always make sure my windows are locked before going to sleep. Because sometimes when I think about that night, I realize something that still bothers me. If I had believed that guy about my car lights and opened the door to check, I probably wouldn't be telling this story right now.